Hey everyone, it's Ben Cicchini, founder of Give and Grow, back with another episode of the Give and Grow podcast. This is our social emotional learning series, and I'm super excited to have Mike Delaney out of Covington, Kentucky, here with us today. Mike is the creator and education coordinator for the Northern Kentucky Social Emotional Learning. He's also has it, earning currently actually his master's in education with a concentration in yoga and transformational leadership. So we're super excited to have Mike on here. He's also a father of three daughters. So this is for you if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, and you're looking to just provide some more skills toward your kids in the social emotional learning space, or just do a little social emotional learning yourself here today. So, Mike, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure, Ben. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So, do you want to talk just a little bit about, where your passion for social emotional learning started and how you've kind of grown in that area along your journey?
I just have been working on my capstone project that tells three or four stories from growing up about uh, this passion and this conviction I have to advocate for people with disabilities. It from an earliest age, when I didn't even know I had a couple of disabilities, I always had a heart for folks in the neighborhood and at school that I would see. And I would, on the one hand, have empathy and say, oh, I wouldn't want to be like that. But on the other hand, I felt pain when I would witness a hemophiliac that was the cashier at the corner grocery store, or a boy at school who had been burned, or the Down syndrome child down the street. All of those tugged at my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I knew it, I was having heart surgery and I was always accident prone and all kinds of things of my own. And I had an oldest daughter who was born and suffered a prenatal stroke. She is currently 45 years of age and doing quite well with her own master's degree as a
Wow.
visual impairment counselor for the Kentucky Office of the Blind.
Wow.
And yeah, a middle daughter who's had some ovarian cancer and recovered, but also has Hashimoto's disease or syndrome. So spread the wealth around, and I also encounter people in ministry over the years.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that background. It sounds like a powerful journey and that you have a really big heart. And I just want to shout you out for, being 71 years young, right? And still going after your master's degree here, which is just inspirational. And I think that really ties into the reason why I'm doing this podcast is it's really at the end of the day for the kids, but through the adults that are inspiring them and educating them throughout their life. Like we can continue to learn and grow, especially in these social emotional areas, especially with our own mental, emotional, physical health. And it seems like you're living that, which
I
is.
didn't always do good self-care, Ben, but
Mhm,
I'm a firm believer, obviously, with yoga and
mhm.
uh, in lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful, beautiful. So, diving into our topic of discussion today, like what's a fact or a stat that you've heard, or maybe even one of those personal experiences that you've had that helps demonstrate why social emotional learning is so important?
I heard and had reinforced in Sarah Lund's recent book, Blessed Minds, the figure that one in four folks are disabled, and a similar kind of stat for mental health. And consequently, if you press it even further, the figure becomes closer to half of people that are going to have some kind of situational period in their lives when
Mm-hmm.
mental health is a problem. And someone else said we're all becoming disabled. Uh,
Mm.
and consequently, um, who was the first lady, Jimmy Carter's wife, Rosalind Carter, who said we're all caregivers, or we're on our way to becoming caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
or we will need a caregiver.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and yet the lack of understanding between neurotypicals and neurodivergence, just
Mhm.
to name a few, I think, again, moves me.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it as really important to be able to just continue to learn and understand about all different people, all walks of life, especially knowing that those stats that you threw out there, one in every four people are disabled. Half people will experience some sort of event that will put them into a state where they really need support with their mental health. These are all obvious reasons why this work is really important to be proactive with it. And
And I,
so,
I just read from Mental Health of America this morning that only 30% will receive treatment for their
wow.
conditions.
Wow. Yeah, it can be hard. It can be really hard to reach out for that support, but I hope this is another moment to just like encourage people like, hey, if you're going through it, you deserve it. First and foremost, you deserve support and there's support out there for sure. And I'll also just add from my own experience, it's worth the money to invest it. It really is, even though it can be hard to make that financial decision as well. Mike, moving into, for the parents out there, potentially even for some teachers, what's something you'd like to remind them that will support them and their children when those mental health challenges come along or emotions get challenging or chaotic? What are some tips you have for us?
It sounds easy and uh, wooden, I suppose, to say, stay calm. That's like telling a child who's crying, don't cry. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, clearly, if you're upset, you're upset. That's something that my current education through Breathe for Change, they emphasize, on doing emotional check-ins, which I advocate for parents for themselves and
Mm-hmm.
for their children. How you doing today? Or,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what are you feeling? Uh, and it's not so much to be nosy as to say, gee, I hadn't thought about it. How am I feeling today?
Mm-hmm.
It's a increase in self-awareness. And I advocate for parents, be self-aware of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I went into my late 50s not being very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've since become more self-aware. I'm still working on it. I will be until the day that I expire. But gee, it just opens up a whole new creation.
Yeah. What are some of those things, when you hit 50 or whenever that moment was for you that you started practicing that helped with your self-awareness or to grow that for yourself?
Well, I've heard other people have similar encounters. It happened with me with a diagnosis
Mm,
in which I was diagnosed with nonverbal learning disorder, which depending on the year, the DSM-5 uh, classifies as on the autism spectrum
mhm,
or not, but it
mhm,
has all the same components as being on the spectrum. If you are uh, well enough aware and observant to notice things that are different about a child, uh, abnormal amount of meltdowns or just remaining silent and lack of eye contact. And teachers can be so helpful with this.
mhm,
Be in
mhm.
touch with teachers because they can be your early warning uh, birds to let you know something's going on and listen to them.
Yeah.
Uh, don't you know don't take easy diagnosis or misdiagnoses. Be on the guard for those. If your child has ADHD or you even suspect depression or something, I think I think all of us suffer 100% anxiety. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, and consequently, uh, don't fear that.
Mm,
I mean, and stay calm. If you're calm, your child will be calm.
mhm. Yeah, I wanna jump in here really quick. First of all, the last piece that you just shared around uh, self-regulation. that's obviously really going to help our child, whether we're a parent or a teacher, help them stay regulated. It can be challenging to do that. That's why we get to work on ourselves, kind of put that mask on ourselves first. But you also mentioned don't be afraid of that. The fear around a diagnosis or asking for support, um, uh, getting a what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost like a test done to check on like, hey, depression, neurodivergence, like any sort of those. It's not a test. What's the word I'm looking for? Can you help me out, Mike?
An assessment or
Assessment. There we go. That's more what I'm looking for. Yeah, it can be scary to even ask for that or to receive that from a teacher or for a teacher to give that to a parent. Hey, I think there might be something going on with your child in this area. Any just like words of encouragement or ideas on how to approach that sort of conversation or that step, that courageous step as a teacher, as a parent?
well, there's free assessments online, and I'm not doing a commercial today for Mental Health of America, but they're available through at least through them.
Mm-hmm.
They post them on their website. And in addition, you can go the pay way, as I ultimately did with a neuropsychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And again, second opinions are just like in the medical field. I encourage, don't take a misdiagnosis to heart. Uh, Check it out
Mm-hmm.
because I've been misdiagnosed. I
Mm-hmm.
since so much of mental health and other things have come down the pike, people have started bantering somewhat irresponsibly some of the terms. Oh, you're OCD and
Mm-hmm.
all those kinds of things. No, I mean it could well be something else. It may not be anger management. It may be fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
and so it bears further investigation, and the fatigue may be based on not sleeping well because of a heart condition.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah. I think that ties back for me anyways to it, your idea that uh, self-awareness is huge, right?
it
Being able to
really,
check in with yourself and be like, oh, like, and then gain that mirror, that support, that perspective, the assessment. Those things can help us become more self-aware. But ultimately, I believe, anyways, you're going to be the most aware of yourself, um, more than anybody. You have that on your plate to advance in that way, to grow in that way, to tap into yourself and understand yourself.
and when you're self-aware, then you'll become more socially aware and you'll listen to
Mm.
the feedback or just what's happening around you, and you'll be able to discern it better.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
so
Mike,
many
what
people are dismissive. Oh, I think we all got something. Bye. Uh, yeah, what do you have? I
Right,
mean,
right. Let's dive deep into this. Let's really like get curious around
yeah.
what might be going on. And I agree with you. It that self-awareness trickles into all other aspects of our life, like in all the ways. That's why it's been so important for me as well. It's like, oh, this is the one thing that I can control that it's like that raises all ships. Is that rising tide that raises all ships in my life. Business, social, relationships, education, feeling good, all those things.
And one more thing for parents, it's not about being perfect, it's about being real.
Mm. How can you make that transition for someone that might be like a perfectionist? How do you go from that to real?
Well, they need to explore what that perfectionist thing is all about. Maybe read up on it. If they're not a reader, talk to someone about it, uh, preferably a professional.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are able to, uh, get online and do YouTube. Uh, we have so many accesses now to information. Not that information is, the answer all to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Kierkegaard said there's no lack of information in a Christian land. Of course, he was in Denmark in the 17th century, thus the reference to Christian land. But he had something there. Uh, Information isn't everything. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
I think that's a huge point to make in a conversation of social emotional learning. Can you like break that down and maybe tie those two together? Like information isn't everything.
I've been working in my capstone project for my master's is I've been working with an intellectually disabled group of adults in Carrollton, Kentucky. Wonderful group and wonderful experience, but I learned in advance how do these people communicate? So I had to get online and because I know they won't be able to understand growth mindsets and sure enough, they don't communicate verbally for the most part.
Mm,
And you know what else they don't communicate with is pictures. I thought, I'll just take some pictures in. No, pictures can be interpreted any which way by folks that function with lower cognition or angel syndrome or Down syndrome or something like that. They communicate relationally.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and if someone, an individual caregiver or coach is seated next to them, they will follow that person's lead. And they like um, we all do, will follow the pack, will follow the herd. I know
mm.
you hear your mother saying, if everybody else jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff?
Uh-huh.
Well, sometimes not, but sometimes I would go to the restaurant where that must be a good restaurant. It's pop.
Everybody's there. Yeah.
And sometimes there is safety in numbers. And
Mm,
people with intellectual disabilities know that. They
mm-hmm.
they see what people they trust are doing. And so that's, information is not everything.
Mm.
Relationships are probably number one.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, we didn't have access to information way back when we all, you know, our great ancestors were moving around, but we did have access to relationships, our relationships with each other, our relationship with the world around us. It makes a lot of sense, and I completely agree. You mentioned not being much of a reader. I enjoy reading, especially on these topics, but I definitely prefer having those relational experiences, those conversations, and I think to bring it back to the point where you were talking about you don't need to be perfect. Just keep showing up. Just be real. What's really happening in your relationships right here, right now? How can you learn through those? And information might help you navigate those relationships, but I think that's obviously both the social and emotional part of social emotional learning. Um,
Some vulnerability, and I just read over the weekend, men don't like vulnerability, don't use that term, but it does help build relationships and trust with your children. Well, back when I was your age, no, sometimes I stumbled too,
mm-hmm.
and still do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. I just had the chance to give a bunch of talks in some middle schools and high schools, and that vulnerability that I shared in those talks turned into relatability, turned into connection. So I can totally vouch for everything that you're talking about. That is powerful when we're able to do that, especially as men, and model that for our kids growing up. And I think that ties right into the next question that I had for you, Mike, around some healthy habits, routines, practices that parents can adopt, teachers can adopt to raise mentally healthy kids, resilient kids. What are some ideas that you have there?
My checklist consists of four areas for me. Somebody else can be different. I do breath check. I think, how am I breathing? Body,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how's my shoulder, my back, my toes, all
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff. Emotions and mind.
Mm.
Do a review. And that's why I've been training with Breathe for Change, because the sympathetic and parasympathetic aspects of our existence, our breath tells us
Mm,
how we're doing with our environment. Am I breathing heavy or not hardly breathing at all?
right.
Holding my breath tells me something about what's going on and what, as you mentioned, self-regulation. What do I need to adjust?
Mm,
And
mm-hmm,
if a child is, you know, what's going on, and furthermore, then how long has it been since I practiced yoga? 3 o'clock
mm.
this 4 o'clock this morning today, but
Nice.
long day and good sleep, needless to say, but that I
Mm,
digress. I go down that checklist of breathing, body, emotions, how uh, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay
mm-hmm,
to be concerned. You don't have to be happy. I believe in toxic positivity.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh, so uh, I said something when I was treated for how to adapt to my uh, uh, nonverbal learning disorder. The psychologist, I said to him, uh, it's been said that I sometimes have anger issues. He said, I don't detect any anger in you, Mike. If somebody came in to see me 13 out of 15 times, they couldn't conceal anger. I said, I'd be worried about you if you didn't ever express anger.
Mm-hmm,
And what it was that, the timing of my anger, when to be angry, and when sometimes people would steamroll me, roll
mm-hmm,
right over. And I should have stood up. What do you think you're doing? But I wasn't aware enough.
mm.
So it may be something else.
Yeah. That's
And
cool how once again it ties back to that awareness piece and that checklist, breath, body, emotions, mind. Like just taking a moment to really connect with yourself, and it sounds like you've been working on that, for yourself for many years now. And I'm curious how, like, any of those potential steamroll situations or the moments where anger is kind of coming along for you, how that's been different since building this awareness practice.
I have uh, certainly become less reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was, constant blowing steam or anything, but I may not delay decision making and the executive functions of making decisions and everything until I'd slept on it,
Mm,
until I'd cycled all the emotions that I might go through.
mm-hmm.
And I've learned more about making sure I'm grounded and centered.
Mm, mm. Do you have any practices there? Because I think that ties into this question around healthy habits, practices, routines. How do you ground and center?
Breathing practices and yoga. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I just read that, over the weekend, what's his name with Apple, his walking meetings,
Oh, Steve Jobs back in the
Steve
day.
Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that stuff is good. Getting out in nature, getting
Mm-hmm.
outside every day,
Mm-hmm.
at least for a while. Uh, all of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
is excellent. And I'm an only child, uh, but I don't suffer from loneliness. I like solitude,
Mm-hmm.
and solitude, learning to be alone rather than lonely
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely great.
Yeah.
So, and mindfulness naturally.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think just for to make the point, it ties back into the information thing. We know that breathing exercises, being out in nature, yoga, walks, like these things are helpful. Are we actually doing those things? And I think that there are little moments throughout these conversations that I've had, Mike, on the podcast where it's like, hey, just a check in and an invitation to go on that walk. You have enough time to slow down and do that breathing practice. It's really going to help. You probably know that and have done it before and it's helped, right?
I have, and and I do the elliptical machine every day.
Nice.
But one more thing for parents to remember, uh, and I had two really good teachers as parents, uh, and they were working class. I don't mean they went to college and got education degrees, but they were very intentional. And what I'm getting ready to say, Ben, is the best way to practice these things and to learn them is to teach them. And that's an old adage that we learn the most when we teach. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have children, no better way for you to learn than to teach them. And I don't mean do as I say and not as I do,
Mm-hmm.
because we all know children are learning from not what you say, but what they see you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And how powerful would it be for our children of this generation to watch us check in on our breath, body, emotions, mind, to take that moment to, and then to be able to walk them through that process as you're saying when they get chaotic, when they start to lose a little control or self-awareness.
I can tell you, I won't say that my children and grandchildren do everything I say, but they watch everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why do you drink from that coffee cup? Why, I mean,
Yep.
they're observing me a lot of times that I don't even think, paying attention to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful right there. That's the power that we have as the adults, those relational modeling, all of that. Um, when it comes, I think this will be a cool topic to throw into the conversation. Um, how can parents foster healthy self-esteem, that confidence, starting at a young age?
Paying attention to their own self-talk. And mine hasn't always been what it should have been. Uh, but affirmations, uh, I
Mm-hmm.
am worthy. I am good or deserving. Uh, you know, uh, there are some things because I'm a religious person, I don't try to get full of myself, be a narcissist or anything, but there's a case to be made for grace and, uh,
Mm-hmm.
be good, be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That goes a real long way. It really does.
Self-care is not self-serving or
Mm-hmm.
self-indulgence. It's
Mm-hmm.
bubble baths, and that's cliche almost, but they're not the same thing as, I don't know if this is going to get done tonight or tomorrow, but I'm going to bed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have learned a good night's sleep makes me more productive than trying to fight in there and keep going when I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I hear you on that. That was you just really hit home for me today. That's why I got my hand on my heart like, man, we do get to be kind to ourselves. And there's moments for where hard work is necessary. And I think when we get in tune with ourselves, we really know when it's time to push and when it's time to take a break. And that's something I'm still learning for myself as well, like on definitely. And so it's a powerful practice. We don't need to be perfect. We just keep showing up for the practice.
Cortisol is not in short supply in this brain. And uh, I, I suffered too much, many of my adult years sleep deprived. Uh, and I've turned that around for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and am very intentional about working hard to get that 7 hours sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen all the time, but wow, that's darn near top of the list.
Yep,
For,
for
um,
sure. Yeah. That's one thing. I'm headed into fatherhood. My wife's pregnant with our first, and sleep is the only thing I'm really worried about. Like, am I gonna get enough sleep to be able to show up? So I'm excited to navigate that challenge as a rookie in the father game, because
I want
that's
the
a real
best
hurdle.
for you, Ben. I really want the best for you. I hope it
Thank
works well.
you. Thank you, Mike. I
And
appreciate you.
for your wife too.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course. Well, Mike, thank you so much once again for your time today and the things that you've shared. I know you said you had a Facebook page. Do you want to like drop in the name of that page? We'll of course share the links for everybody to be able to connect with, but any page, I know LinkedIn as well, just any place people can get in touch with you.
The reason I made it a closed page, Ben, which I will welcome people to,
Hmm.
if they send me personally on my personal Facebook page a friend request.
Okay.
But there were times when I flooded uh, my personal page with too many posts and so forth. And to avoid that problem, I closed off a Facebook page for Northern Kentucky Social Emotional Learning. And I'm
Gotcha.
Mike Delaney in Covington, Kentucky. If you'll send me a friend request, then we'll transform that into being a member of Northern Kentucky Cell.
Got you. Okay, perfect. And I know you share a lot of information on there, things that you're learning, things that you're inviting others to practice or try, and I'm sure you got a lot access to a lot of information through your master's program as well. So if you're looking for another resource, Mike is definitely a great guy to get in touch with. We hope you enjoyed this conversation today with us, and once again, Mike, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all that you shared today.
Thank you, Ben, and everybody that was listening. Thank you.